Hello, everyone. I'm on the floor today. And you may ask me, why am I on the floor? Well, dear viewer, I just got out of a 2-hour showing of the Emerald Fennel film, Wuthering Heights. I watched it with my friend Louie, and I recorded our little chit-chat after the the commencement of watching the film. And the people have spoken. Hi, I'm Mahi. I fish with too much time on their hands, and when that time isn't being spent at the gym or doing art, it's usually spent reading. Today, we'll cover one of my favorite pieces in literature, Wuthering Heights, and its very, very recent movie adaptation. Adaptation is putting it lightly, as like someone barely steeped the leaves of tea and poured you a glass and it still looks and tastes like water. Now, at the time of writing this, I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I have much to say. I have much to say in a very caught-up segment later on. But from this point on, I'm going to talk about what I've seen from the movie itself, and then from costuming notes, and then to the actual set process and set design itself, as well as the posterization of such. Without further ado, let's dig in. Let's talk about it. I haven't had very high hopes when I saw the trailer and the posters for the movie. Wuthering Heights is a book that I read in my high school year. I believe it was my senior year of high school when I had my very big Twilight obsession. It was either senior or junior year. It was one of the years when I was dating my ex, and I was very into Twilight. I had just finished the Twilight series, and I had it on my TBR, and my mom had it on an accessible bookshelf, and so I cracked open that thing. I needed something else to read other than horror and shitty romance novels, and I knew this one was considered one of the great works of literature. So I cracked it open, and the first few chapters I was confused. I was uncertain on what it was supposed to be like, but I liked it. As I got up to chapter 6, I believe, and Heathcliff opens the shutter doors and he's like, Kathy, come home, please, Kathy. I was convinced. It also helped that I was very into Kate Bush at the time. I was OG Kate Bush before Babushka blew up. I love Kate Bush. I was listening to her while I was reading, and I remember she had a song, Wuthering Heights, which it's one of my favorite songs. It might be the outro song to this. It was this very spiritual experience. It was a very good experience. And so, reflecting on that, reflecting what I know of the book, and then looking at the posters, there was a certain sort of unease to it. Just for those who don't know, here's a small minor plot recap of the book. So it starts off with the Earnshaws. There's a father, there's a brother, and there's Kathy. And now, at the moment, I don't remember the name of Kathy's brother. I'll probably edit it in here, and then copy my voiceover said edit. But he's there. And so Kathy's brother asked their father, who's going to Liverpool for business, to bring them back a fiddle and dolls, and then Nellie, their nursemaid, wants a pocket full of apple and pears. And so he takes them a day or so, and the children stay up every night. Their mother watches after them and sort of keeps them occupied. And then eventually, Kathy's father comes home. But Kathy's father comes home, doesn't have the shit that they want, or it's crushed in his pocket. And he's like, hey, guess what? We have a baby now. The baby is a dark-skinned baby boy. I just need to specify that. It is a dark-skinned baby boy. And he says, I just saw this little baby. This little baby had been chilling out there all alone. He has no family. I doubt his family would take care of them. So I thought maybe I should get the baby. And he takes the baby home. And then the wife is like, no, we don't need a fucking baby in the house, especially not a dark-skinned baby boy. A person of color in this house. We are white and we are high-standing in society. Or relatively so high-standing. She goes on to relent, because Papa Earnshaw is like, no, we're keeping this baby, he will be one of our own, and goes on to name him Heathcliff after his dead son that had probably died years since, and is just like, yeah, we'll give him Heathcliff because our son is no longer using that name. And both Earnshaw children are like, fuck this baby. This is a fucking stupid-ass baby. Kill this guy. With Kathy specifically spitting in the baby's face and, like, flicking it off, or, like, flicking it several times. The brother Earnshaw, like, storms off. He's like, I don't want this baby. Take it away. And then Papa Earnshaw goes to Nellie and he's like, can you let the baby sleep with you? Please make sure it's, like, cleaned as well. Like, he needs to be a proper young boy. And Nellie is like, fuck no. She washes up the baby, gives the baby clothes, and then sets the baby out on the landing. And the baby Heathcliff, goes and, like, crawls into the elder Earnshaw, Papa Earnshaw, and Mama Earnshaw's room. Papa Earnshaw wakes up the next morning and boxes Nellie's ears because he's like, yo, the baby was supposed to sleep with you. This is my son. Fuck you. Which honestly, base. Good for you, Papa Earnshaw. And it goes on. It goes on. Heathcliff grows up. He becomes semi-literate from the help of Kathy. He learns sort of how to read, I guess. The eldest Earnshaw start dying off. Papa Earnshaw dies. And Mama Earnshaw is like, well, my husband really loved this guy, so I sort of have to, like, keep this child in the family. But I believe she moves him out to the stables. And then Mama Earnshaw dies. Older brother Earnshaw is like, fuck you and the horse you came on, you slur for Romani people, bitch. And he moves him out to the stables and makes him a servant boy. And it basically just says, you are a brown person, you should be treated like a brown person. Whips him, gambles all the money away, gets a wife. Wife also, like, fucks with Heathcliff and Kathy. He's like, Kathy, you should hang out with a brown person that is poor. You are a white woman. Stop doing that. Still continues to beat the shit out of Heathcliff. Wife dies. He gets worse. Hangs baby over railing. Like, his own child, he hangs it over the railing, and Heathcliff's like, dude, what the fuck? Takes the baby, like, nurses the baby, gives the baby to, like, one of the housemaids and the housekeeper. They're all like, what the fuck, dude? And then more people move in. They sort of just deal with the brother who's gambling and drinking his days away. You just stay out of his way. And then the Lintons move in next door, and Edgar Linton and his sister Isabella Linton, Kathy and Heathcliff think it would be a good idea to go in on spy on them. They go and spy on them. Heathcliff helps Kathy climb a wall to, like, spy on them. And then then she tumbles down and she gets her leg caught in the mouth of one of the Linton dogs and breaks her ankle, basically. Heathcliff runs off because, again, he's a person of color and also a poor boy. And so he's like, oh my god, my shit's gonna get busted in. And so he runs back home and he's like, oh my god, Kathy's over at the Lintons, we need to help her. And then, this is surprising, the Lintons don't come to check, like, call on, like, Wuthering Heights. They just take her in and are like, oh my god, you broke your ankle, we're so sorry, let us bandage it for you. She stays there for several weeks and comes back a young lady, quote unquote, basically too refined or posh for Heathcliff's taste. And Heathcliff is pissed about this. He's like, dude, what the fuck? I thought you were dead. And then she's like, no, I'm fine, but you're too ugly and smelly for me now. She didn't actually say that, but she's like, I'm in love with Edgar. And Heathcliff is pissed about this, like, rightfully so. His pseudo-girlfriend sister wants to marry another man, I guess. And he's like, okay, go fuck yourself. And then Kathy's like, in fact, I will. And she marries Edgar. And then he runs off. He's like, fuck you. I hate all of you. I'm gonna let your dad die. Go fuck yourselves. He rides off into the sunset. And then Kathy lives peacefully for a while with Isabella for company and Edgar, and it's very prim and posh life. And also Nellie follows them over to Thrushcross Grange. They're like, whatever. And then eventually Heathcliff comes back and is like, boo, bitch. And Kathy is like, oh my god, Heathcliff, you're back, and you look like a proper man. You have money. You have nice clothes. I should have married you. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, haha, too late. He starts moving in on Edgar's sister, Isabella. And Kathy is very petty about this. She's like, oh, you'd rather Isabella over me. And she sort of tries to sabotage, but it doesn't work. He's very steadfast. And then they have all these conversations out on the moors. They trot around, blah, blah, blah. And then Kathy finds out she's pregnant. And then Heathcliff finds out she's pregnant, and then eventually, like, literally proposes to Isabella. And then Kathy finds out they're going to be wed. They go back to Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff is a drunkard, a gambler, and a very abusive man. He strikes her. She sends letters to Nellie saying, please get me out of there. Please, oh my God. Eventually, she leaves. She leaves Heathcliff with their newborn son to Scotland, and they're never heard from again. Good for them. She got out. And then Kathy wastes away at hearing that, Heathcliff, fucking married another person, and everybody's convincing her, please eat, you have a child in your belly, please eat, oh my God, stop faking this shit, because she has a habit of faking illnesses. And then she gives birth, and then she fucking dies, and Heathcliff hears about this shit, and Heathcliff visits her one last time, and they sort of are together, I love you. I remember the scene, it was very significant to me because they lie in bed with each other, they just say I love you and kiss each other, and it's all, they shared a night of passion, quote unquote. And by that time period, it meant a lot of kissing. And then the next day she dies. And then he's like, no, Kathy! And then they bury her. And then Heathcliff is depressed. And then he has to raise the Earnshaw child. The child that Kathy gave birth to, Kathy Jr., sees the Earnshaw child and is like, oh my God, let's be besties. And then they have a bunch of technical playdates, and she teaches him how to read. And it sort of mirrors the way that Heathcliff and Kathy once were, how Heathcliff treats the Earnshaw child because he is the son of the older brother. He basically abuses him. He doesn't teach him anything. He doesn't teach him how to read. He's nonverbal for most of the time. He's very gruff-mannered. And Kathy Jr. takes a liking to him, but she marries her other cousin instead. Her other cousin who is more available than whom she desires. And then they're just pining for basically a long time. And then Kathy's current husband dies. And then Kathy is like, okay, well, my dad's dead. I'm going to leave and go marry this man. And she goes to Wuthering Heights, and they marry, and they sort of elope with each other. And then they're like, okay, fuck you, Heathcliff, fuck you, Heathcliff. And they live with each other, and it's a very lovely time, and they're happy with each other. And I mean, Heathcliff is still there, and he's still abusive, but they sort of get along well with each other. And she's very sarcastic and very I'm going to curse you in your entire bloodline, which is really cute. And then Heathcliff starts hallucinating a shit ton more, which it's not, I wouldn't say it's hallucinating because it's gothic fiction, so there's going to be a ghost. The ghost of Kathy starts roaming the moors and haunting him. And I believe it's because they had something you better haunt me in death or some shit like that. And so Heathcliff goes out onto the moors one day. He digs up Kathy's coffin, lays next to the body every night. He goes out every night. And then finally one night he doesn't return. They find his dead body and bury him. And then Kathy Jr. and Edgar and then the other family's child get married officially. And they own both the Thrushcross Grange and Wuthering Heights. And they live happily ever after. It's actually a really sweet ending. The whole thing is overcoming generational trauma, and it has heavy notes of racism, heavy notes of classism. I think it's a gorgeous read. I adore Emily Bronte to death. And I believe she makes a very messy man, a very messy woman, and it's a very human read. The book for the time period was very controversial, especially considering the male main character was a person of color and also a poor person dating a rich white person, or into a rich white person who also had their advances. I'd say there's also a lot of incest in this. Literally, Heathcliff and Kathy were raised together as siblings, and then Kathy Jr. will marry a cousin. Kathy Jr. will marry a cousin. I'd also say that's pretty normal for the time period, too. Everybody's marrying their cousin. So that's the unfortunate bit. The movie plot is interesting, to say the least. The choice to make the canonically teenaged characters adults, 30-something-year-olds, for the entire period of the movie is fascinating to me, I'm going to be honest. Fascinating. Louis said it is because, obviously, the director wants them to have sex, which I get. But you can also have that with 18-year-olds. I'm making a face. I genuinely, hated this movie. I hated every moment sitting in it. I would like my 2 hours back, actually. The plot of the movie goes something like this. The father who is two characters in one, finds a poor boy, not a baby, a boy, a full-fledged boy, buys a boy off of his father, and it's this little white Scottish boy, little white Scottish boy. And he brings him home, and Kathy's like, "You will be my new plaything. You're my pet." And they instantly take to each other. And the dad is abusive and hates Heathcliff, even though he brought him home. And Nellie, also abusive. I don't know why. They literally snubbed my girl so dirty, and by also making her much younger than she actually was in the book as well. Because she would be in like her late teens, early 20s. I don't know. And they had like the housemaid from the second act as well. And Joseph isn't fucking 60 years old. And Joseph's fucking the housemaid from the second act. And that's a later point. And I know I'm gonna probably repeat the summary in the little segment I did with Louis when we talked about the movie. But it's genuinely important, right? The scene transitions, they go out, they play on the moors, they come back, and Nellie catches them. Nellie's a little snitch in this movie. She tells the father what happened, and Heathcliff gets beat with a whip to the point where he has long-lasting scar damage, and they curl up next to each other and go to bed. Like perfect material for a dead wife flashback. What goes on next is Heathcliff is sleeping, and it's like the fresh back of Heathcliff, his shirt is pulled up, and Kathy comes in, Margot Robbie, and hits him with a shoe. And it's so off-putting to see a grown woman act like a child and know that these are supposed to be children in the back of your head and not actually adults. Next, that she's grown up, and then there's them pranking each other. Kathy puts a bunch of eggs on Heathcliff's bed, and Heathcliff sits on them and fingers the eggs. And then there's a scene where there's pony play, and they pull out like a harness and whips and fuck in the stables, and Heathcliff's behind Kathy, and he's rock hard. He has his hands on his mouth and her eyes so she won't see the fucking sex, even though she's like a 30-year-old woman at this point. And it's even confirmed in the movie she's a spinster, so like, shut up, girl, go away. And then Nellie's just like, you need to be a proper lady, you need to marry the Lindens, and the Lindens come over, and it's just a mess from there. So I'm just gonna play like the segment of after we watch the stupid fucking movie here, because I have the plot so much better in there than like what I can do right now. What are your thoughts on this movie, Louis? We just finished Wuthering Heights by Emerald Fennell. You can go first, buddy.
Absolutely horrendous. I felt so uncomfortable most of the time.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching a sex documentary, a BDSM documentary. I felt confused about where the plot was going, especially considering what you told me about the book. I was like, this is not like the book at all. What are we doing? Multiple times I was scared that things were just gonna get worse, and they kind of did. I was just like, what's happening? Yeah, my rating, -10 out of 10.
Agreed.
Creator of this, please stop making movies.
Yeah.
Someone take her away from
someone take her away from the stove. She needs to stop fucking cooking.
Yeah, somebody get her out of the writer's room. We don't want her here
Get her out of the
anymore,
kitchen.
okay? Because I can say with confidence this is a movie I would never watch again, and if I went in theaters to see it, I would have walked out after the first 10 minutes.
Absolutely. I feel like this can be done well, but it's done so horrendously that I hate it.
Yeah, no, it had a lot of potential if the creator,
like read the book a second time.
If the creator read the book,
wasn't a white privileged woman who was born with a spoon up her ass, a literal silver spoon up her ass.
Yeah, I think it had a lot of potential if it had been written perchance by
a person of color.
A person of color, a gay person of color.
Yes, I agree. They should have put me in charge of this thing.
Right, they should have called Mahi and been like, help. Because this was
literally
abominable.
Anyone but Emerald Fennell, please produce a better Wuthering Heights film, because this was god awful. God awful.
Like I can't even. It feels to me that she tried to go for a Bridgerton vibe, a Bridgerton mixed with Pride and Prejudice, mixed with whatever other
Gone with the
fucking
Wind was a
1800
really
yeah.
big inspiration for this, it seems, because the posters are very Gone with the Wind inspired. The staircase shots are also very Gone with the Wind. And like how they behave is also very Gone with the Wind. Just a minor reference, Gone with the Wind is also a white supremacist film, so like there's a reason
No.
why a lot of people don't talk about it. It's still like a classic
Yeah.
film. Like you should still watch it. It's still a good movie. You just have to remember where its roots are.
Kinda like The Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Yeah.
God. Like, the first little bit was okay because I
Mhm.
liked the kid actors,
Mhm.
they did a good job, but once they aged up and everything, the acting just felt
Stilted.
very dull, yeah. And I know that Margot Robbie and, I always forget his
Jacob
name,
Elordi.
Jacob Elordi. Yeah, I know they can do better acting-wise, so this was
Yeah.
kinda just like it's like they dumbed down them for the roles. They said, "Now, forget everything you learned throughout your years of acting and just
Yeah.
fucking wing it." Like
Yeah. Um my first initial notes of this is that I also agree the child actors were very cute, and if they had just read the book and stuck with that, because considering that Heathcliff and Kathy are like 15, 16, 17, 18 throughout the book, the entire book. Um just before like the final act where it talks about, or the second to last act when she dies, and then it talks about the different generations. Um I noticed that a lot of Wuthering Heights films stop when fuckface Kathy dies, but that's not when it ends, and it doesn't even leave a good ending, because the good ending is when Kathy Jr. gets with the Earnshaw boy, and they run their little cute bed and breakfast, and they live a little happy life after Heathcliff dies miserably because of pneumonia. Yeah, and it misses a lot of the points of the original book, which was classism and racism. It's a pretty controversial book for the time, because that literal, like, brooding main character, awful human being, by the way, Heathcliff, is a person of color,
Mhm.
which, casting a white man as clearly a brown man that is called slurs for brown people, specifically brown Romani people, which at the time was generally used for anyone of mixed heritage or descent, um, is certainly a decision to make, in my opinion. They casted characters of color, which shows they can cast characters of color, like Nellie being obviously played by an Asian woman. I forget her actor's name, and then the person who played Edgar had been fan casted as Heathcliff for like ages, and to not choose him as a Heathcliff, to me, is like a detrimental fuck up, because he's an excellent actor. I thought he made a very lovely Edgar, and I wish he had been Heathcliff much more so.
Yeah, I really liked him as Edgar. He made me sympathize
For
and fall in
Edgar,
love with
yeah.
Edgar. Um,
I mean,
Heathcliff, I could feel less remorse than anything. Like,
I I have the next thing in my notes is that Kathy's papa wouldn't do this, because that's true. Her father would do it. In fact, it was her older brother, who apparently died in this story. Um, did
yeah, in the
that.
movie,
The
she doesn't have
oldest,
any brothers. They're
yeah,
all dead.
the eldest brother is a gambler and an alcoholic who abuses both her and Heathcliff and Nellie to an extent. Also, they brought Zilla in, which Zilla was from the second half of the book, slash literally like the first few chapters, where what's his face goes to Wuthering Heights and checks in on the Earnshaws because they're neighbors. And Zilla is the
Mhm.
housekeeper there because she was the housekeeper after Nellie, and Nellie is the housekeeper in Thrushcross Grange because she was there since Catherine moved there and Catherine died. So, I also wrote that. What do you think of the opening scene?
I don't know. I didn't really
Did
couldn't
tickle your
really
pickle?
think of anything. I don't think anything about this fucking movie tickled anything on me, bro.
I feel like I could
I
be titillated if it wasn't Wuthering Heights. You know? Like it
Yeah, the
had some
music freaked me out too.
I mean, there's some places where I think Charlie did good because I really liked all the use of cellos and violas that she used, the very heavy string instruments. I thought that was good. But like, it's cut some scenes that have like a modern pop sound to it, and it's like, I was like, I don't know, you
That
guys.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Anyways, to talk about the beginning scene and why we're both like so about it. The movie opens up with it's like completely black and you hear like and like this guy like moaning and groaning, and then it opens up like bright daylight and he's like sucking in a breath, and here's where I thought he came in his pants. He's sucking in a breath, the cloth gets wet, and then it's supposed to be like a face with like an open mouth because it zooms out and he's hanging, he's got a fucking boner from being hung. In test screenings, he was supposed to ejaculate while being hung.
Oh,
Yeah.
bro, this whole fucking film is literally just what's her face? Emerald.
Old fennel. Yeah.
It's just her barely disguised kinks throughout the entire
Yeah.
film. That's what it is. Like, it's just her being
She seems to
kinky and
really
writing
like
it into the film.
necrophilia.
Necrophilia, puppy play, BDSM, but like white woman BDSM.
White woman
where it's basically
BDSM.
just
Yes.
abuse.
No
It's
safe
just
words.
abuse. No safe words allowed. It's just abuse.
And then everybody sees this guy with a boner hanging, and they immediately are like, "Let's have sex in public." Did you notice that? They're like kissing and touching.
Yeah,
Like, that's
which people did not do back in the day, even in the
no.
poor parts. Like, people did not do that.
You go inside with your prostitute. You don't bang in the street alley. Now banging
That's how
in
you
a
get
street alley.
arrested.
Yeah, exactly. Now banging in a street alley is more common. You'll still get arrested, but people still fucking do it. I then wrote, Nellie is so mischaracterized. Justice for Nellie. I hate how Nellie was portrayed in this film so much because Nellie in the book is like such like a sweet, genuine, good-hearted person.
They made her so evil and hateful.
Yes, and they completely skip the points of explanation to why this action may be like seem as evil or hateful, when there is like a perfectly fine explanation. Like this is, I don't know, spoiler. I probably already put up a spoiler warning, but she dies in Kathy dies of sepsis in the end, which isn't true in the book. She gives birth to her baby and then dies in childbirth because she hemorrhaged a lot of blood. Because birthing a children in these days, it's like it's actually terrible on the body. And Nellie didn't know whether or not Kathy was faking an illness. Now the reason is because Kathy tended to fake a shit ton of illnesses, so you didn't actually know when she was sick. So in my opinion, Nellie had good reason to question her about this. I then said I didn't really have much to say on the child acting. I thought they were very cute. All I have to say is, whose white baby is that? You know?
Yeah, that's not my baby.
Whose white baby is that? And then it smash cuts to after Heathcliff gets whipped, the scars on his back, to Margot Robbie, her 30-year-old self, throwing a shoe at his head. Like two 30-year-old people acting like 14-year-olds. It's very off-putting.
Yeah. The personality, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense because, you know, if they were 15, their attitudes would make sense, but them being 30-year-olds, them acting like teenagers, it's like, oh,
I'm uncomfortable.
Weird.
I mean, they even confirmed that Kathy's a spinster, which means above the age of 20, so above marital age, basically.
Yeah, so it's not like they're pretending to be 15. They aged them up. She aged them up on purpose so that they could have sex.
I don't know why you would ever like read a book as when I read this, I was like 16, 17 when I first read this, and I didn't want them to have sex. I thought like there's something about Victorian fiction that has some sort of inherent eroticism to it when there's no erotic like visual or like verbose eroticism. It's just I think it's the temptation of such that is so fascinating.
They can't do anything unless they're married. So it's kind of like the buildup of like, you know,
will they, won't they?
Hands. Wow, it's so
twirls hair. I would
Twiddles thumbs.
Twiddles thumbs. Yeah, I love a slow burn, and this book was like the biggest slow burn ever. I like also listening to it on audiobook. That's just a side tangent, but like love listening to it on audiobook. So I think that is much better than any like aggressive going at it. And that's all this movie was just like every other scene was like a sex scene. As you went, like as you cross the 1 hour threshold, it's just sex. Just sex. Straight up.
Back-to-back sex scenes.
Back-to-back sex scenes.
And then death.
The first sex scene was Zilla and Joseph with a whip in the stable with the horse collar. Thoughts? No thoughts on the horseplay?
I just kept thinking about how fucking unsanitary the mouth guard was.
Yeah.
And because they didn't wash that shit back in the day. So
Oh, no.
she 100% was putting horse mouth germs in her mouth. And, yeah. She probably died after that. I don't know.
No, she lived. She had a kid. I have a quote of and then it's Kathy. She's the reason why it's so horrible is like if you suspend disbelief, Victorian women weren't really predisposed to eroticism. That isn't inherently true. Later, Lady Chatterley's Lover came out during this time period, and it was a work of erotic fiction, and also erotic poetry existed. They had access, but it was uncouth to read. And Lady Chatterley's Lover was considered like a housewife's novel. So they had plenty access to like sex and eroticism, especially if you live on a farm like Kathy and Heathcliff do. You can in fact see animals having sex. Not to say that that is ultimately the 100% guide to sex and sex having, but it's scandalous, but it's not aggressively so. And this scene, they're acting like Kathy, a 30-year-old woman who has never seen sex once before in her life, glimpses upon Zilla and Joseph having this, like, she's looking through the floorboards, and she's watching them, like, go at it with this woman having, like, the horse blinders on her face and, like, pulling the reins back and, like, plap, 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 plap. And then Heathcliff comes up behind her, grabs her by the mouth, and then covers her eyes so she can't see shit. In theory, I feel like that would work. In this movie, I fucking hated it. I wrote that Joseph came fast. He, like, came in 110 seconds flat.
Literally, like, the sex scene started and most of it
and
was
it ended.
Yeah.
It started and it ended. There was no build-up, no nothing. I guess
it was just like, ooh, look at this, a whip and
they're chasing each other.
And then
look, we're in the stables.
Heathcliff's hand is on Margot Robbie's face.
Yeah. I wrote down, usually I'd be like, oh wow, this is hot, but genuinely it's so uncomfortable and unsanitary. What the fuck is going on?
Which, by the way, did you notice that she did that with Edgar when they had sex, where she put his hands over her mouth and eyes?
Oh no, I didn't fucking see that.
Yeah, she did the same thing because she was imagining Heathcliff.
Oh, so. This is so messy. This feels more like a telenovela than like a really good gothic novel.
Really crazy telenovela.
Yes. Yes. Am I wrong?
Telenovelas have like
sex scenes? Some do, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The ones my mom watched had sex scenes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm used to the older ones. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And then once they're done having their 5 seconds of sex, Cliff pulls off of her and Kathy goes dashing out, and he has the rock hardest boner ever in his pants. He's got a big old chode.
Like, she's mad at him too.
Yeah,
like, she storms off
Stop
mad at him that he blocked her
boner.
view.
I want to watch this. I'm trying to jerk off here. You're disturbing me from jerking my fucking shit, dude.
And then she goes and jerks her shit.
Yeah, it's a hard cut to her jerking her shit. Actually, it's like the morning before, and there's like scenes of like pussy, like sort of allusions to pussy, allusions to dick, and then one of the like, housemates smacking the dough, like kneading and smacking the bread dough, which I've never smacked dough while baking.
They were
I'm
just like, yeah, this'll
Yeah, let's
add
just
to the
smack this
scene.
shit. And then it's a hard cut to her jerking off in the moors, and Heathcliff finds her and he grabs her by the corset, which to me, my brain is immediately like, does that work with lacing? It could
Mm.
work. It's a front-facing corset, so those are more decorative than the actual corset as undergarments. And he picks her up with the corset, and my brain is like, oh my god, the lacing is gonna break. The lacing is gonna fucking break. Oh my god.
But
Any
evidently that's not what happened.
yeah. And then they have a little squabble, and what happens is she grabs a bunch of grass and puts the pan she was jerking it in with the grass in his mouth, and he starts licking and sniffing her fingers. Again, in any other
Yeah, he
context,
grabs it and goes
is
and starts
yeah, he
fucking
starts
sucking on her shit.
yeah, in other contexts, because like I've read works where like people like are jerking it and then they like sniff and suck their fingers, but that's in the context of like normal fiction that I like to read in the
Normal
normal
relationships.
relationships, not in the. I mean, like it could be done in the 1800 setting, but it's usually more, how to describe it, tasteful.
Yeah, this
It's
was
usually more
just very
tasteful.
odd, out of the
Yeah.
blue, very undisguised kink again.
Yeah. It's okay if you want pussy fingers and mouth. It's okay if you want to be a dog. It's okay if you want to be
It's okay.
fucked in the dirt. Oh, we'll get to that later. It's okay if you want to be fucked in the dirt. It's okay if you want to have your mouth and your face covered. It's okay if you want to pretend you're a little horsey and get smacked by a whip. But this was just not tasteful at all. Like, the juices were supposed to be flowing. We were supposed to be titillated by this movie. Did you feel titillated?
I felt violated.
Yes! Yeah, I felt molested. I said, dress looks like cellophane or plastic fabric, not becoming of the time. I'll probably put like a photo of the dress on the screen here.
Very Party City.
Party City, yes. A lot of the fabric.
Spirit Halloween.
A lot of the fabric and the hair doesn't make sense for the time period. For example, for her wedding gown, she has long down beach waves, which doesn't make sense. And like gaudy fucking fake ass Party City jewelry on. Doesn't also make sense. And then I wrote, I'm still uncomfortable. And then I wrote victory rules, question mark. So we're coming up in the era of Kathy wearing shit tons of victory rolls, which makes no sense. And then it sort of introduces us more to Isabella, who is a little freak, and she makes a doll with Kathy's hair, which I mean, if I'm marrying into a family and there's a little freak in there, me and that little freak are getting along. Me and that little freak forever. I wrote
She's definitely how cis people view autistic people, by the way.
definitely.
Like,
Oh my
100%.
god. How neurotypicals view autistic people. And I wrote that Edgar is very adorable, and the scene
I said the
between
wrong thing.
Kathy and Isabella would make more sense if it was two children interacting with each other. Edgar is adorable but freaky because he says it shall be no other color but from my wife's sweet face, and he has her room that's painted like her face, down to the veins and the moles, and it's like a soft peachy pink color. I liked it. I thought it was cute. It might be a controversial opinion, but I love a yearner. I love a dedicated lover. It should have been me. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we just kept going. It should have been us. Like,
Yeah.
she couldn't treat him right.
Yeah. More victory rolls! Exclamation point. Nellie, Victoria, and Edgar, Nellie, Isabella, and Edgar are the only people who are dressed for the time period. I'd say Isabella less so because that's more late 1800s, especially with the colors. And later on, her patterns look like from an 80s movie, and it makes me want to die. But Edgar has been Heathcliff and Edgar consistently are like dressed for the period. And so is Nellie. Nellie is very dressed for the period. And then there's sex scenes, and Edgar basically pulls a good heavens, I'm arriving. And then Louis already mentioned, sorry, gentrified your name. Louis already mentioned Edgar had his mouth and hand over her eyes and mouth. Zilla, and then she goes back to the house. Zilla is married. This doesn't happen in the book because she is technically a second act character. Amazon Fabric Hood is what we said. It looks straight out of Party City. I said she looks fucking gaudy. The giant fucking cross in the center of her boobs was horrible. I hated it. I will say the makeup design here was pretty good because the dad is literally like wasting his life away. His eyes are jaundiced. He has yellowed eyes. He's jaundiced. It is pretty good for someone who's in late stage renal failure or kidney failure for all you people out there. And he's sluggishly moving. So I'd say it's a good depiction of someone who is like a severe alcoholic with kidney failure. And then they have a convo and he's like, haha, you need to give me more money, basically. And then she throws him money on the ground and he's like, oh, you need to watch me pick up the money because that's obviously what your intent is. And then she helps him pick up his coins. And then she comes back home crying and goes to Edgar, and Edgar's grabs her and puts her in his arms and kisses her head and assures her like everything's gonna be okay. She doesn't have to go back there. And I liked that. I love Edgar. I need a man. Give me a man like Edgar. We love Edgar Linton in this house. Kathy, move over. I'm taking Edgar is literally my next note. And then it cuts. It's like years pass, and it's very Twilight. It's a possibility coded. She's depressed because Heathcliff left. I forgot.
Monster, how should I feel?
Creatures lie, yeah. And the reason why Heathcliff left is because he had overheard earlier about her engagement and marriage to Edgar, which is why there was the "Great heavens, I'm arriving" scene, is because they're consummating their marriage. And then Isabella makes a book for Kathy, and I said, I wrote down, "This is a rose," which reminded me also, which is Isabella saying like, "Oh, I saw this pretty rose, reminded you," and the rose looks like a pussy. And she does like a full-on pussy spread. And there's a penis spread.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, there's a pussy spread, a penis spread, rose and mushroom. So they like to remind us that this is a sex film. This is just all softcore fucking porn. Zoom out. Let me see the boobs. Let me see Jacob Elordi's cock at this point. Like, just show it. I don't... And then Kathy, it is revealed then that Kathy is pregnant. And then I wrote down bring back separate rooms because during this time period, you would have 2 separate rooms because it was seen as uncouth to sleep with each other. And then there's eggs on her bed, which means Heathcliff is back. And then he looks like a gay little man, and Louis said, "Excuse me, it looks like you sucked a dick and take it up the ass." And I said, "This is literally his worst look. Where's the beard? Bring it back. Welcome back, Scottish boy." And he has a gay little earring. Usually this earring is worn by the time period by sailors. Anyways, he just has a gay little earring and he's always mewing. I don't know why. And then the next scene is him with the Lintons eating dinner, and he has his little pipe, and he's not replying to Kathy's question, and so Kathy, who's supposed to be like 16, 17, is like, "I'm totally not thinking about you, or isn't that right, my dear husband?" But it's a 30-year-old woman doing it, so it's not actually, like, understandable. And then Nellie is like, and then there's another scene where he's like, "You need to stop interacting with Heathcliff, he will devalue you," and I said, "Whore, that's the point." I genuinely hate Kathy in this, is my next note. Her behavior makes more sense in children. Heathcliff is the OG hater, and he's just mewing. And then, like, she beefs with Isabella or something. And she's like, she grabs her by the hair, which doesn't happen in the book. Never does. And she sort of presents Isabella to Heathcliff. She's like, it's so very static, and it doesn't make sense at all for the characters. I wrote down that I think Elordi was going for like a very Mancunian accent, but it fluctuates, so it's very Scottish from time to time. So I just summarized and said he's a very gay Scottish boy. I forgot what Jesus Isabella was for. I think it was, I remember what it was for. It was because she stabbed her hand. with a needle because she was so frustrated with Kathy acting like a stupid bitch, which I agree, but I agree, but I wouldn't stab my hand. Kathy's just a stupid bitch. Papa drinks himself silly and dies, which is the next scene, and she rides on horseback to see her papa, who dies, and then kicks his shit in. I wrote, I cannot with this film, I'm so bored, I need Subway Surfers. Because Papa died, Kathy runs off to mourn, and Heathcliff follows her, and he's like, you abandoned me! You said it would be beneath you to marry me. And Kathy's like, I loved you, Heathcliff! And they start kissing in the rain after beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I said,
her beating the shit out of him is awesome.
Yeah, he picks her up, by the way. And then I wrote, there's nothing like kissing with your pseudo brother. Because they are siblings.
Literally, he calls her dad Papa.
Yeah.
So.
And then they make out next to the dead dad.
Crazy word.
Yeah, while he's being buried. And then they fuck on the fucking Edgar's house 5,000 times. They fuck on the moor. They fuck in the carriage. They fuck in the carriage multiple times. Pussy ate out by the garden shed. Into the dirt. How many times must they fuck in the carriage? Where is Edgar? Question mark. And then, like, they're in bed together, and in, like, Heathcliff's bed, and he starts licking Kathy's tears. And I said, no wonder that fucking baby died of sepsis. They're banging all the time. Kathy finds out Nellie is the one who sort of, like, roped her into saying that she loved Edgar Linton in front of Heathcliff, but you could clearly see Heathcliff in the window. Bitch, why didn't you look? And then Nellie instead goes to Edgar and is like, hey, your wife has been boning Heathcliff, by the way, ever since he came back. So, I'm not saying, don't say it's from me, but your wife has been boning another man.
You didn't hear this from me.
You didn't hear this from me. And then they start making out in front of the window, like literally where the husband can see. Like she's like, oh, Edgar can't see us. No, bitch, there's a clear shot to where y'all at. And the reason why she makes an excuse, like Heathcliff throws a rock at like her little sitting room window, and she's like, oh no, a swallow. I must go find the poor bird so it doesn't die. And it's just an excuse to go smooch and like get fingered or some shit. And I just said, this is so messy, Jesus fucking Christ. The next scene is her, like, getting up in the middle of the night to shut a window, and Heathcliff is there, and he thinks he's a baby daddy. And then Louis said, and I quote, are we on Pornhub right now? And then they fuck on his dining room table. And I said he needs to fuck the baby out of her. And it's, like, very angry sex where he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill your husband. I'm gonna gut him. I'm gonna slit his throat. I'm gonna drink his blood. And then Kathy is, like, so into it. She's getting off on it. And then she nuts, and then she's like, wait, Heathcliff, you did actually mean that, right? You're not gonna actually kill my fucking husband? And he's like, I'm going to kill your fucking husband!
He's like, I fucking meant every word, bro.
Yeah. And again, came in 10 seconds flat. And I wrote down, did you not listen, you stupid bitch? This next quote says, to get through this movie, I'm just imagining Ghost from COD after killing my abuser, having sweaty fucking sex, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him saying he's gonna kill my abuser while pounding me. Yeah. There you go. So that's the only way we could get through that scene without wanting to die.
Yeah. He goes on the floor, he starts crawling like a dog to her and like kisses her hands. Like, I mean, a lot of people like when someone crawls like a dog. Because it shows a level of yearning, you know? Like, we love a yearner, but like
in a different context, I probably would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But in this context,
not in this. I'm so uncomfortable, man.
I was just like, get it over with, bro. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, and then he leaves because she's like, we can't have sex anymore, Heathcliff, sorry. And then he goes and he climbs up the fucking house and he's like, well, okay, fuck you, I'm gonna fuck your little sister now. Fucks Isabella hard. And he fucks her so good that she's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna come home with this guy, even though he said outright he doesn't love me and will never love me and he will treat me horrendously and not like a person at all. The dick cannot be that good.
Yeah, he literally said, I'm gonna treat you abominably.
Yeah. Breaking and entering for pussy is what I called that scene. I'm being sexy and brooding to justify abuse. This is supposed to be sexy, by the way, because there's like scenes of him grabbing her by the waist and picking her up and throwing her on the table and cutting her dress with a knife. Again, in any other context, this is great. I'm titillated, but in this context, it's awful and I hate it. Get me out.
It's just odd. I don't like it.
And then I said Shotty is so struck by the dick she goes nonverbal. They get married, etc. And then Kathy's like, oh, Isabella married Heathcliff. I will never recover. And my ass was cackling at that.
Like, Edgar keeps her in his home, keeps taking care of her, and yet she has the gall to fucking starve herself and cry in front of him all the time. Like, bruh, I would have kicked her out on the street. I'd be like, fend for yourself, bitch. But then again, he did think she was still pregnant with his child, so.
He's much sweeter than both of us.
Yeah. I'd have been like, go find your Heathcliff,
go fuck
bro.
yourself.
Leave me the fuck alone. Like, go away.
And we both noted that Emerald is really into CNC and it shows. Like, no issue being into that. Just why are you fucking putting it in a retelling, quote unquote, of like one of the best books ever? Like one of the like acclaimed like classical literature novels that everybody has to read at some point. I just says, what is this shit? You
could have just written a fucking
like just write a book, babe.
Just
write a fan fiction.
50 Shades of Grey, dude.
Yeah. The next scene is Isabella and fucking Heathcliff sitting at a table, and she bullies him for not being able to read and write, which is true. He does not have a formal education. And they're sort of mean to each other, and they are both into it somehow, which confused me because the dynamic here isn't very healthy. And he's like, oh, I'll treat you nicely if you write me this letter. And then she's like, you better fucking treat me nicely. And then she chokes him and then kisses him and then releases him and he stumbles on the floor. Which obviously, I love a strong woman like that, but this, what? Then they have hate sex. And then one of the letters gets sent and it worries Nellie enough to where she comes to Wuthering Heights and then sees, when the door opens, she sees Isabella on the floor with a chain connected to her neck, barking like a dog and yipping and like sitting pretty, basically. And Heathcliff is like tossing her bread, feeding her like that, and he's like, oh, we both like this. What happens is Nellie knows, and then she's like, I forgot. Before this, Kathy and Nellie have a chat, and Kathy's like, I think the baby's dead, by the way. And Nellie's like,
LOL,
you've got to be shitting me. And then she goes off and then tells Edgar about Heathcliff. And she doesn't deal with Kathy being like, the baby's dead. I think it's dead. Like, completely dead.
Yeah, she doesn't say anything. She just assumes that Kathy's lying about it.
And they don't even include that in the film. The reason why there's some attributes to Nellie doesn't make sense here is because it makes more sense in the book because Kathy fakes several illnesses. She pretends to die all the time. If a woman cried wolf, or a little girl in this case cried wolf so often, I too would be like, you're not dying, you're fine, you just need a drink of water. Anyways,
stop being a damsel in distress.
Yeah, exactly. Bro. I wrote down, Dick was so good, I became puppy dog. Dick was so good, it turned me into a slave. The only man who could logically do that would be Koenig, actually. ...
Right? And 6'10" Austrian man who could pick me up and throw me around the room. Like, only guy. Yeah.
And I remember Heathcliff specifically saying, she's the one to match my depravity. So, like, they did match each other's freak in the end. They were freaky deeps.
Yeah, they matched each other's freaks, but he did not love her, and he made that very
clear,
from the beginning. He said, I do not love you, I will never love you. I will treat you abominably. And every time we have sex, I will think of Catherine.
And during sex, and during the letters, they use the repeated phrase of I love you, which that's like a very special scene to me in the book. It's like one of the last scenes of Heathcliff and Kathy. They are embracing, they are kissing and repeating I love you over and over again because it's the scene before Kathy dies. because he goes to visit her before she dies, and they say, I love you, I love you, I love you, and they're kissing. They have a night of passion. That is the only thing mentioned in the book, is they have a night of passion, quote unquote.
Yeah, but
And
it
so they
doesn't go into
try.
detail
Yeah,
about it.
no, it doesn't go into detail. And so they try, and I don't even think it was sex. I think it literally was just kissing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cuddles and kisses and sweet words.
Yeah. And then in the movie they try to mirror that with all the sex and like and Heathcliff saying I love you in his letters and like while like pounding into her. Like so my gas.
But we don't actually get that scene.
Yeah, no, we don't. Never.
She dies before he can go to her.
Go
and
to
say
her,
it,
yeah.
So.
Anyway, Kathy starts to fucking hallucinate because she's dying. No shit. And I said, I hope she's dead. When will this bitch die?
Next scene.
Literally next scene. Nellie is not at fault. Justice for Nellie. Nellie was done so dirty. She literally dies next scene, and Edgar's like, Nellie, what have you done? Oh my god, you should have fucking told me it was sepsis. And they stick a bunch of leeches on her.
Which, for those that don't know, leeches are nature's blood thinners. So they put like 15 leeches on her, and it thinned her blood so much that she hemorrhaged.
She hemorrhaged and shot that dead baby out. And then Heathcliff is like, yeah, he's on his horse. And then Isabella, Nellie, while he's gone, snatches Isabella out of there, which honestly, good riddance. And he has a golden tooth, and I thought it was so silly, and it's the only point of time I noticed he had an actual golden tooth.
Yeah, it was like, bruh, no, give him his gap back.
Yeah, and so while he's like, yeah, it's interspersed with a scene of like Heathcliff being there and reassuring her, but it's actually fucking Edgar.
Yeah, she's hallucinating Heathcliff again.
Heathcliff. No goodbye scene, frowny face. Also, blood everywhere. And then Heathcliff comes. He's all wet and dripping, and Edgar meets him at the door, and he's like trying to like say his condolences as well because he also lost somebody very special to him. And then Heathcliff almost starts boxing this guy. And I said, why can't the two men kiss? He's just trying to hug you.
Right. He's literally trying to be like, don't go in there. You don't want to see her like that.
Yeah.
Like trying to be nice to the man that literally tried to steal his wife and then marry his sister.
Yeah. And like beat the shit out of her. He's like, somebody call for a doctor. The doctor's already been there, bitch. She's dead. And then he starts.
The doctor was there.
He starts kissing the corpse, and I was worried for a second he's gonna start fucking that thing.
Yeah, I was worried things were gonna get freaky, like Nosferatu type shit. I was like, oh no.
And then I said, and then they have a dead wife flashback, and then the movie ends, and I was like, oh, good fucking riff. Never again.
Yeah, I can't tell you, I've never been more relieved for a movie to end.
Yeah. Why are you guys still here? Dude, what the fuck? Why did you sit for 56 minutes? I'm gonna tell you about the ads, and then you're gonna get the fuck out of my house. This first bit isn't an ad, though. It's just a gripe about the most common annoying fucking dress design of this movie. It's, like, toward the later acts. It's a very loose, flowy... It's not really an A-line, but it is a very triangular shaped sort of gown. And its skirt and bustle are made out of latex. It's like this bright cherry red latex. And I don't know, I just needed to point this out because it pisses me off to like no end. And it needs to stop. I hate this shit. Secondly, let's go over some of the posters of the Wuthering Heights movie. The main poster that we see is very reminiscent of paperbacks from the 1940s, 1950s, up to, like, late 90s romance novels, though I'd say less so, like, 80s and 90s. It's definitely, like, a certain era of Americana that it is referencing. It has a type font, and if you actually look very close at the type font, it is a lace type font, and specifically a machine lace type font, which machine lace type fonts and the commercialization of machine lace wasn't really popularized until the Industrial Revolution, because those machines required active components to turn the gears. So this doesn't make sense inherently, but like, what are we expecting of a film that said fuck all to historical accuracy? It also, again, is very Gone with the Wind. I'll just put up the other poster for comparison. I would say, as well as like the posters, it was advertised as a chick flick. It seems to be a similar ad campaign to Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us, which is subjectively a book about abuse and escaping your abuser. So, and that was also advertised as like a love story of some sort, and it was like a chick flick, like grab your garlands and your girlfriends, and come to watch a woman get physically beaten in the theater for 3 hours. Why are we advertising movies like this when we know they aren't chick flicks? I've never understood why. It's not up for me to decide. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say on ads because, like, I'm gonna be honest, I've been editing this video all day and I kind of just want to get it done. There isn't also many ads to say here. This movie was awful. All the interviews that Emerald Fennell did made me, like, 1,000 times sure that she never read the book in her life and probably just skimmed the pages in her 9th grade English class. It's an awful movie, and please do not be rage baited like me into watching it. In conclusion, fuck off.